Good morning, everyone. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Welcome to this week's Post-Cabinet Press Briefing. This morning, we have with us Mr. Carlton Frederick of the Physical Planning Unit, and from the Ministry of Health, we have Health Minister Mr. Nicholas Steele and Dr. Sean Charles. We will start this morning with Mr. Frederick, who will speak to us about the transition of the Physical Planning Unit into the Planning and Development Authority, which will have responsibility for all planning and development in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Mr. Frederick?
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to the nation. The Physical Planning Unit and the Authority, Physical Planning Unit Authority, is going through changes, and we are actually doing some reform within the department. We almost agree, both from the administration side and both from the public side, that in 2020 it cannot just be business as usual when it comes to planning and development in this country. It just cannot be. We must give justice to the mandate of the authority. We must do this. The Land Development Control Authority and the Physical Planning Unit was established to do principally three important things. From the planning side, you were supposed to do the orderly, systematic, and progressive development of land, all land in the country. From the development control side, you have development control, whether existing buildings and what is to come on site, what you need to be doing where in the country. And finally, we must ensure that we have environmental protection and sustainability. Those are the three aspects, well, crowded with other smaller roles and functions, but those are the main three functions. If you ask me if I'm satisfied with the services provided, performance of the department, the commitment to duty and loyalty when it comes to planning, and even the compliance by the nation, my answer to that is no. I would want to be seeing something much better happening when it comes to planning and development control. We are actually close to this disorder. And many a times when you try to impose order, you come up against a lot of objections and a lot of pushbacks. My role at this time is to transition the Physical Planning Unit into the Planning and Development Authority as a single entity under Act 23 of 2016 as amended in 17. That is the mandate. We want to be able to set up one unit to be able to be responsible for development control and to be able to be responsible for forward planning in this country and to be able to look after our pristine environment that we have. Basically, that is what we have to do. But while at the same time, we still have to continue to be dealing with all the applications that come in within the department. So we have to be able to be working, to be able to service the board with all the applications so that we can take decisions and that we could take decisions pertaining to all the illegal developments that are happening. So the day-to-day operations, we still have to do that. When the authority is fully established, we would have to have committed staff to actually do the work of the authority. You know, we need to have people who are committed to actually do the work of the authority and to be able to take the authority to the level at which it was supposed to be. The planning system in Grenada is broken. It is seriously fragmented. It has been so for far too long. And somebody has to stand and take the decision to be able to get this thing in proper perspective. The Prime Minister has done that. The PPU is an arm of the Ministry of Finance. It was set up in 1982 under the revolution. It was a part of the micro-planning division so as to be able to provide information on the plans that were being done at the time. You had the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, whatever the plan was. And the staff within the physical planning unit right now, most of them, they are employees of the government. They're under the ministry. However, the ministry, the unit is now the technical arm of the Planning and Development Authority Board, because the Planning Authority is not fully established yet, and it does not have the technical team to be able to carry out all its work. So traditionally, long when the Land Development Control Authority was enacted, 40 or 65, all the work of the board was being done by the Land Development Control Authority. We have the same situation now. It means, therefore, that you have one side controlling the unit and you have the other. When I say one side, I mean the government, the Ministry of Finance, and then you have the board acting as an entity. We need to regularize that and do what we need to do with that. The PPU staff, as I say, is appointed and paid by the ministry, but the board, as it were, is governed under the Act. The new Act, brothers and sisters, Act 23 of 2016, as amended, is crafted to deal with all matters, and it has responsibility for both planning and development. And that is the ultimate position that we need to have, because all the laws are set up for the proper organization and execution of the duties and mandates of the planning whole process. The Act established the board, but after the board is established, the CEO or the SPO, chief officers of that, is established under Part 2 of Section 6. So people like myself would be established under Part 6 of Section 2 of the Act, Act 23 of 2016. So it means, therefore, that we need to have this going so that we can be able to fully implement the mandate. We have to be able to set up, as it were, a unit for revenue. And we have to decide how we do use that revenue to go forward. We may get some subvention from government, but the law speaks to all of that. We need to handle our legislative affairs. We may get from time to time people that, that we can help the authority to go forward. Right about now, we have an engineer that we have fully within the department. And I hope that when we go over into the full establishment of the board, those persons can come to give the support in terms of the engineering aspects and other aspects of the side. As long as we don't do this, brothers and sisters, bring the authority into full effect, the status quo within the country would continue to be the way it is. I know you're not happy about it. I am not happy about it. We need to equip the authority to do its work. Remember, I'm not within the unit per se. I'm within the board. The board is whoever appoints under the board has the legislative responsibility for appointing people to do certain works, and that is the minister's responsibility. What have we done so far? The board is fully established, fully constituted. The planning officer that is actually steering the work to transit the board, which is myself, I'm in place. The committee for actually reviewing some of the aspects of plans, all right, of development for the development process, such like the environmental impact assessment, the culture and heritage aspects. Those committees are being set up as I speak. You have other committees that we can set up. For example, we have so many illegal developments in this country, and people just not coming through the planning authority. Now that the economy, in my opinion, is booming, a lot of people are taking the opportunity to improve their facilities, improve their house. That is fine. But you have to do it in a way that it does not contravene the law. People are building right out into the road. People are doing all kind of crazy things. And when you go to them, they want to be able to attack the messenger rather than the message in which you bring. And I want this to be, I want this to be understood, that we need to do the work of the mandate, of the authority. If I am appointed, I would try to do it in the best possible way I know how, to do the work of the authority. We have also the operational system is being rolled out. We have been doing a lot of internal works because, yes, we have improvements in efficiency in dealing with the development applications. And I want to tell you that each and every application that has come into the department within the last 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks was all dealt with. We do not have a backlog within the planning authority. We have dealt with those, because we need to do that. If we need to get businesses going, and if we need to get employment in the country, and if we need to have economic development in this country, we must get the plans, especially the big ones, approved so that the people can get on with the business of the day. And that is what I want to say clearly on this. In other words, over the last 5 months within the department, we have dealt with 70 applications per month. Average. Sometimes we go up to 85. The last 2 months we had 80, 85 applications within the planning authority. We are struggling with illegal developments because you try to have moral suasion with the people, talk to them, you go to them and you talk to them, you basically beg them or whatever have you, and they're not taking you on. Apparently people like to be pushed. And I hope he doesn't have to do that for too long. You must comply. Sometimes I come there on a site not to tell you to stop, but as you see a planning officer on a site, they come and stop you. Basically, that should not be the game at all. We come to make it better, what you're doing. We may tell you you're building too close, step back 1 foot. We may say to do this so as at the end of the day, you get a better product and the country look better. And basically, that's what we is. We are working with public relations. We need to roll out our public relations on this planning and development thrust that we're on to be able to get compliance and to be able to work closer with the public with regards to taking this thing forward. And I am appealing to the public to give us your support, because you can get your support within us. Don't believe you cannot send your applications because you cannot get it approved, and you have to pay somebody because you have to get it approved and all this crap. The planning authority is open for business. Send in your applications, let us review it, and let us get it approved so that it shouldn't hold you up, and then you have no reason to come and feel that you have to give people anything, because you're hearing a lot of these things on the outside. I want to be able to have that clear. And as long as I'm there, maybe not too long, but as long as I'm there, I'm going to try to be able to have this thing organized in a proper manner. And that's what I have to say as my opening statement this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick, for that update on the Physical Planning Unit and its transition into the Planning and Development Authority. We turn now to health. We have heard in the news recently quite a bit about the coronavirus, the outbreak in China. There has been concern about our students who are studying there. Government has issued at least 2 press releases on the matter. And this morning, Minister Steele and Dr. Sean Charles of the Ministry of Health will provide us with some updates on that and other health-related developments.
Thank you, Philomena. Dr. Sean Charles and myself are here primarily to talk about the various steps that we have been taking here in Grenada since the announcements coming out of WHO and Pan American Health, and also to take any questions or so that you might have concerning the coronavirus and health in general. But let me hand over to Dr. Charles, who will give you an update on the present situation that we have right now.
Good morning. Well, firstly, let me say that coronaviruses by themselves are fairly common. In fact, about 15 to 20% of the common cold that most of us would experience at some times in our lives is caused by one strain of the coronavirus or the other. However, what has been observed is that ever so often a new strain of this virus emerges and tends to cause even more severe disease. This has occurred back in 2002 when we had the SARS outbreak. Later on, around 2014, we also saw the Middle Eastern respiratory virus, the MERS, and that one itself, it's still circulating, but more so in the Middle East. This new virus that has recently emerged, like SARS, emerged from China. All right. There's a lot of concern about the virus because there's still a lot that is not known. All right. It is assumed that the disease might have originated from some species of animals and somehow made its way over into humans. And then from there, transmission from human to human has ensued. Now, since the end of December up till the 27th, which was yesterday, 2,801 confirmed cases have been identified and 8 deaths. 99% of these cases have been reported from China, and cases have also been recorded in 11 countries around the world. In our region of the Americas, so far there have been about 7 cases, 5 of those in the United States and 2 in Canada. What is encouraging so far is that there aren't reports of ongoing transmission in the countries where these diseases have been exported to. But we are still at early stages of this disease. And like I say, there are many things that still need to be understood about the infection.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Charles. I think before I go any further, maybe we can get some questions or so from the press, either to Dr. Frederick or Dr. Charles.
Okay. Rena Pierre, GBN. A question, though as you said, the disease is in its early stage, is there any precautionary measures that is being taking place at our port of entries as it relates to the airport and cruise ship and stuff? We do have a lot of visitors coming in from the region. We're still in the peak of the tourism season, and we do have Chinese nationals here. So maybe some of them must have left for the New Year celebration coming back in.
Yeah, we have had a heightened level of surveillance at our ports, primarily Maurice Bishop International. That is monitoring all passengers coming off of all flights for any signs of the flu, primarily temperature, if they have a fever, primarily, but any other flu-like symptoms. That is done through video surveillance. Maurice Bishop International Airport, we have video surveillance that allows us to know the temperature of each person as they walk past the camera. And also with our nurses observing, and when necessary, they will approach passengers to take their temperature or whatever further examination they may see fit. So far, we have not had any passengers that have exhibited any signs that raises any level of concern. There is not the same level of surveillance at our cruise ship ports because the mere fact that the cruise ship industry as a whole treats their passengers getting on board a vessel and throughout their time on the vessel differently because of previous outbreaks of flus on cruise ships. So passengers are screened intensely and similarly before getting on a cruise ship, and then at the cruise ship they observe consistently the behaviors, etc., of passengers while on board. Also, that there hasn't been a declaration that there is an outbreak in any of the originating ports of cruise ships. So that is our level of heightened alert. That is what is prescribed at present. It is the same for most other communicable diseases that are airborne also, but we have increased that level to make sure that there is double coverage at Morris Bishop International.
One of the requirements made by Pan American Health Organization was to ensure that nurses or anyone within the hospitals to be up to date as it relates to the virus and ways in which they're treated. We have any of this here?
Yes, there is, and in fact, there is consistently training with dealing with airborne, but we have discussed and confirmed over the next couple of days, in fact, starting today, there will be reinforcement of the training, just as a precaution, reinforcement of the training.
Christelina, John, GPN, just to piggyback a bit on what Rena would have asked, how about protection for the health workers themselves? How are we dealing with that just in case that we might have, some appearance, some semblance of this, coming into our country? And two, there are reports of a chartered flight that came in sometime this morning with a group of Chinese nationals into the country. Can you clarify for us, please, Minister?
Okay, on the health workers, yes, the required protective suits and masks are in distribution at the relevant points. So it won't be at all of our health centers at present, but it would be at Morris Bishop International and then here at the Ministry for quick response or dissemination throughout. We will begin, as of today, dissemination of masks to our various health centers just as a precaution. There isn't any indication for otherwise, but just as a precaution to make the very health workers feel a little more comfortable that the masks are present, not that they would need to use it right now. And all flights, private or commercial, are monitored and screened. There was a private flight, because I've seen the rumors. I inquired and can assure you that flight was met by healthcare workers, and everybody on board that flight was screened, and like all other passengers where there is a point of origin close to China at this point in time, they are consistently monitored while they are here.
Can you clarify their purpose for coming in and where are they coming from exactly?
The flight originated, as far as I'm aware, in Beijing. It is a business. It is, I think, 8 passengers on it. And it's a private flight, so it didn't interact with other commercial passengers or at a commercial port where we would have seen the risk to be much higher. The Chinese officials are also ensuring nobody can leave China without screening as well, private or commercial. And then we also check on this end as well. So it's double coverage. The same with commercial flights. There is more of a risk when somebody travels on commercial flights, but there's screening at all ports when you leave as well as when you enter.
Sherry and Noel, GIS. Minister, although a release was issued yesterday, I think most Grenadians are interested in the well-being of the students. We know that there are students in the province where the virus is. What update can you give in terms of assurance that the students are being taken care of and they are safe?
All our students are being communicated to by the embassy. I know I've seen certain posts on social media that that's not the case, but I'm also seeing the reports from the ambassador that that is the case, that they are being communicated to. And as I said last night on an interview, if there's any student that hasn't been or feels that they need to be contacted a little further, there are numbers and ways. The social media communication in China is a bit different. The situation in China is chaotic in those cities, Wuhan in particular. It is chaotic. The city is on lockdown. The safest and best thing for our students to do is the same thing that is the safest and best thing for the Chinese citizens to do. Stay indoors, stay put. Travel is where the risk. travel and at large associations or getting together in large groups, whether it is at bus stations, train stations, airports, or parties or whatever, all of that has been cancelled. If our students were to try to transit out now, they would be put at greater risk. At this point in time, it is the same for all, whether you are Grenadian, whether you are Chinese, whether you are American, whether you are British, it is to stay put. The city is quarantined. Anybody trying to move, say from Wuhan to Beijing, would put themselves at risk and those in Beijing at risk as well. So that is the reality of the situation right now. So we are in constant communication, and as the release has shown, the Chinese government remains willing and able to assist wherever possible. But it is a unique situation on the ground. So constant communication is, I think, what is essential in this instance.
I just want to add here that the reason I was late was just coming from a meeting that the Prime Minister had with the Chinese ambassador, actually. And this, of course, the coronavirus outbreak was one of the subjects of that discussion. Our students are okay as of now. And basically, the ambassador would have reinforced the points that have already been made. The cities are on lockdown. The students that are there, they simply have to stay just as the advice is being given to others. So it is not recommended that they leave at all at this point. And the Chinese government has said that it is sending in additional medical teams to Wuhan in particular to help control the outbreak.
And just a final part to the question, and in terms of the communication between parents and guardians.
That I'm not aware of directly. I know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Education have been reaching out to parents and guardians. I would just say that if there are any parents or guardians or family members that feel that they are in a void of information, please contact us. Please feel free to contact us, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or GIS, so that we can provide relevant information. Or if they have additional information that they believe we may not have, please feel free to share that as well with us.
Good morning, Callistra Faria. Dr. Charles, Sean Charles. With the virus, with all of the stringent screening at the ports of entry, can you tell me what level of risk still exists for transfer of the virus into a new territory based on the fact that these things have an incubation period? So you've gone through a battery of checks in China, you get on a plane, or a battery of checks in the UK at Heathrow, wherever, and you get on a plane. What is the risk to Grenada at that point, given, is there no risk at all, a lot of risk? Give me an assessment of the situation, please.
All right. I remember one of the things I said was that a lot is not known about the disease. WHO has quantified the risk for China and for the region and for the rest of the world. The risk in China is high. The risk for the immediate region around China, the risk in China is very high. The risk for the immediate region, the Asian region, is high. And for the rest of the world, there's a moderate risk. But there's a lot that is not known, all right? We still have to define how transmissible is a virus. We have established that there is transmission ongoing human to human, but we know that it's generally among close contacts. However, as the condition unfolds, one of the things that needs to be determined is how transmissible, all right? And that will determine how easily spread. So for example, if it is discovered that a person incubating the virus, even before showing symptoms, is able to, if it is formally established that that person, even before showing any symptoms, can transmit the disease similar to, let's say, measles, all right, then that it's something quite different, because someone can go through the screening not having any symptoms and be able to still transmit the disease. So a lot is not known, and it will be very difficult to quantify the exact risk. What I can tell you is in the Caribbean region, no cases have been identified. All right. So the risk for us at present would be not very high.
So because of how little we do know about how the virus behaves, it could be quite possible that allowing persons to land, for instance, Beijing, they have reported a death in Beijing. So it's actually getting out of Wuhan based on reports from international news agencies and so. So that because we don't understand how the virus, it is possible, it is a possibility that it can, we can be affected, that a plane load of people, for instance, landing at Morris Bishop at 2 a.m. in the morning and appearing healthy, passing the test, can still put us at risk. Is there any risk at all?
My answer to that would be yes, in the same way a plane load from the UK, a plane load from Canada, and a plane load from the US. The virus exists in those countries as well. So yes, as Dr. Charles says, there's a lot we don't know, but we do know how to determine, in most cases, the level of risk. But this is developing as we speak, but one can determine the level of risk and the protocols to be taken. And those protocols are being taken, which is why right now, Grenada, as well as all of the Caribbean and the rest of the world, has not shut down and close all borders. If that is a directive, then that most definitely, we would not hesitate to take that action if that is the recommended action. Right now, that is not the recommended action to be taken by the world, not just by Grenada, by the world. This is not something unique to Grenada that we must write a playbook on our own. This is an international agenda or issue. It is an international threat. Grenada is a member of Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization, and our participation, active participation. In fact, at 12:30 we will have another. We've had daily meetings with Pan American Health Organization, and we will have another one today, as we have had all of last week with all of our Caribbean associates as well. And we continue to monitor the situation. We continue to exchange information. We knew of that flight coming probably about 2 or 3 days ago, and we checked and confirmed and discussed with Pan American Health Organization as to any risk or the level of risk involved there. And we got a concerted answer and response from them. There is higher or just as much risk of someone transiting through one of the major international ports as there is from somebody being checked and confirmed. It's isolation. The less circulation an individual has, the better for them. Whether they're in Wuhan, whether they're in Grenada, or whether they're in Washington State or Toronto, is the less circulation. The more that somebody circulates, so if individuals have been isolated and traveled privately, if individuals have been in the UK or New York or so, they are not at risk. So the situation is similar. It was determined and with coordination with Pan American Health Organization in terms of any risk levels.
Any particular reason why the flight came in at that particular hour? I understand it came in at 2 a.m. Is that information correct? And any particular reason?
It's a long flight time. It left probably at 2 p.m. in Beijing time, and it is quite a long time to get from Grenada to Beijing or Beijing to Grenada. No, it wasn't in any effort to hide their presence or so. There are private aircraft that land at that time otherwise, or so, based on private aircraft schedule. That is not a time for commercial airlines because we conveniently organize the arrival time for commercial airlines. But that was not out of the ordinary and wasn't in any effort to mask because we were notified in advance and made all of our preparations in advance.
My final question. The stock of pneumonia medicine for treating pneumonia and other bronchial situations. How are we at the hospital? Because I know we had an issue which was confirmed that we were out of pneumonia medicine at one point sometime last year in flu season. for bronchial infections and those respiratory problems and so on. And
We don't have any confirmation of that, and I would like you to share with us this confirmation you have.
Minister, I'd be
Because that
happy
would be
I'd be
seen
happy to
as a-
chat with you after the news
No,
conference.
you made it public. You made a public statement, and as a responsible journalist, you need to be able to show the confirmation that you got.
As
When
a
we
responsible
get
journalist,
to
I
that,
will put the information in the
But
story I write. That's
Dr.
where
Sean
I
will
put my
answer you
information.
on the level of medication.
Right. So, pneumonia is an infection in the lung, and there can be different causes. So there isn't a single treatment for pneumonia. Pneumonia that are caused by bacteria are treated by antibiotics. Those that are caused by fungus are treated by antifungi, and those that are caused by viruses are treated by antiviral medication. All right. So at any one time and from patient to patient, the treatment will vary.
So not to hold the news conference, but could you speak to the antiviral ones, because I understand that antibacterial treatments may not necessarily work with complications and developments from the coronavirus. So do we have what we need in terms of those particular medications if people become infected?
There is no identified medication for this strain of the coronavirus.
For treating
this
or
strain.
bronchial infections.
Well,
Explain to them the difference of
like I said, it would all depend on the cause. So if it's bacterial, I mean, we have antibiotics. I'm not aware that we've run out of antibiotics at all. All right, so it depends on the treatment. As Minister mentioned, this present coronavirus and for the majority of viral infections, such as the flu and common cold and so on, there is no specific treatment. All right, there is no specific treatment. This present coronavirus, there is no vaccine, there is no treatment. The treatment is supportive. All right, so someone, if they're severely ill, they will be admitted. If their illness progresses to the point where they require respiratory support, then they will be treated in ICU, ventilated, and so on. But there is no specific drug to treat it.
I was asking about treating the corona. I'm well aware of that situation.
Calistro, I think you've had sufficient questions for now. Let's see if there are others in the room who have any additional questions.
I have additional questions, but I don't know if Minister would be speaking on other areas of health, or should I just go to it?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so my other question is in relation to the latest development that we have had with this young man named Akim Andrew, who would have infiltrated the system and was able to, you may say, perform duties of a doctor. How concerned are you as health minister, and how easy it is for someone to penetrate the system? And are you, perhaps, say, concerned of other cases that might be existing that we're not aware of?
Now, the licensing authority and enforcement agency for medical and dental practitioners is the Grenada Medical and Dental Committee. No, the council, sorry. They're the ones responsible. It's independent of the Ministry of Health. The chief medical officer is a member of that council. They're the ones that will check individuals for the validity of their license, etc. Now, somebody coming up and pretending just on his own that they are a medical practitioner, now it would be for police members of the public or Ministry of Health to be able to see that an office has opened or somebody is moonlighting. We are aware of the facts, and based on the facts, we have a level of concern and have made efforts to contact all of the individuals who may have been dealt with by this individual, just to check on them. And that is the level. The Ministry of Health is not the enforcer. We are there for public health, and even our doctors must clear with the Grenada Medical and Dental Council, must be approved by the Grenada Medical and Dental Council. So it is them that are responsible for that. That's not passing the buck or so. somebody wanting to pretend to be a policeman, to pretend to be a doctor, pretend to be a journalist, it's still among the peers for self-enforcement or members of the public to question the qualifications of the individual.
Are they the ones?
If I might add, the list of registered doctors in Grenada was recently gazetted. So you can just check from there.
So how regular are reviews conducted, if you can answer to this? And why is it only the Gazette? Because not everybody that really would say have access to a newspaper, so to know when that list is really established.
Well, speaking as a doctor, when your license is renewed depends on when, on the date that you fulfill all the requirements for licensure. All right. So each doctor has a different date, and that fulfillment is with the Medical and Dental Council. I believe the license is renewed every 2 years or maybe every 3 years. All right, and you must present evidence of continuing education and pay the requisite fees and so on.
Can we switch to, or we could switch to Mr. Frederick. I want to ask you a bit about, you kept stressing on the illegal developments. Could you just elaborate a little more on that? And what are the penalties for such, and why haven't they been implemented?
Okay, thanks for the question. Illegal development, by virtue of the name that it is development that is taking place without the approval of the planning authority. Every development that takes place in the country should come through the planning authority for approval. Or that one of the things that you can do if you're not sure whether or not you need planning permission, you can call or you can speak to the officers with regards to what you want to do. For example, if you want to do an internal renovation of your house, break down the partitions and whatever have you, you don't need planning permission for that. Only you may want to know which partition to remove, because you may well move a partition and it's a load-bearing partition and the house fall on you. But if you're doing extensions of your building or whatever, you want to add some rooms or you want to add something to your house, you need to submit, because we have the laws that pertain to how far you need to go to your boundary line, whether or not you can put your septic tank in somebody else's place, how you're going to be able to take out that additional water that comes from your place to actually get it to the proper drainage system that would take down those things. So it is in your interest, in the interest of the individual, to get planning permission or come and speak to us, and we can advise you with respect to what you need to do. Now, what is happening with large developments? One of the things that we do not want to do is an investor comes, he has a large development, let's say, for example, $10 million, that's small, but $10 million. And he do an entire plan and submit a development plan to the authority. And we say to him that you cannot build that here. One of the things that we need to do, and what they know that ought to be done, is that you send what you call an outline planning application to the authority. You say, this is what I intend to do. This is how it's going to look. This is where it's going to be. It is going to be close to a swamp area, close to the sea, close to this and that and the other. We want to get your permission on that, so that when we do the final drawings, remember, you cannot develop with an outline planning approval. It is to say what is to come to us. So we would give you all the information. We would tell you, well, look, where you are is a very sensitive area. So what you need to do is to do a EIA. Let us check out the environmental concerns. Let us check out and see whether or not the site is good enough for it. For example, some of the applications come in and we doesn't have enough room for parking facilities. And you know, parking is becoming a very serious issue in the South. So we want to be able to look at this thing and advise you. So when you're coming in with an application, you may want to leave the entire bottom of your area for parking facilities, and that you can do something above. We can give you different pointers so as to get a very good application, and it doesn't cost you. At the end of the day, you can get your plan approved and you go forward. So an illegal development is one that just go ahead, just doing what you want to do, you just bill out, and then you would realize that you have contravened 1, 2, or 3 aspects of the law, and that we need to talk to you about that. And many a times, as I mentioned in my presentation, the people don't even like to see the planning officer. Once he comes, they think you're coming and stop them. And they feel, well, look, I bill it and I spend some money, and I'm going to lose that money. So they try to fight you tooth and nail. We want to be able to have early intervention and to be able to go forward and to do that. So that's my answer to you.
So the penalties for such, notwithstanding all that you have said,
well,
one that doesn't follow the guidance.
The penalty varies, but basically they would ask you most times to remove it or to get it in line with the law. So you might they might ask you to break down certain things, you understand, and so on. So these are the kind of things. And you have certain penalties, but I don't know. Every situation is different, so it would be very difficult for me to tell you that the penalty is $500,000 or $50,000, because I have to see the situation to be able to tell you what the penalty would be in there. But in most times they ask you to regulate the site, get your building back, cut out a portion, do this, your eaves, whatever, this is not right, this is not right. So we ask you to do that, and that is penalties in itself. Yeah.
And my final question to you, you said that you all are basically getting your house in order structurally. How soon from now you think you would have all the pieces in place to operate as a unit that you believe it should be operated as?
I want to believe around 6 months, 6 months, depending on what it is. All depends on how fast things move, because it's a lot of things to do. I would say 2020, within the year it would be done. But I'm looking at I want to look at a target of 6 months to really get the unit fully running. It means you have to set up, as I say, there are certain elements that we do not have at the moment. When you come with an application, you pay the fees for the application in the Treasury, all monies. We don't collect no money within the planning authority. We give you an invoice, and you go and you pay it, you bring it back to us, we see that it is stamped and the Treasury have your money, then we do business with you. And it's not just about the money, but I'm just making the point. So basically, that is what it is. We want to set up a finance unit. You have to have that. The law speaks to that. The law speaks about the legal aspects as well. We need to do that. We have to get the right people in the right department. For example, we still have to do what you call forward planning, because Planning Authority, I said GIDC, I worked there for a long time. Planning Authority has to do what you call a development plan. One of the things that we ought to do is a development plan to show where things are going, to advise government. For example, right now, we all know that we have a serious problem with parking in St. George's. We all know that we have a problem with the amount of vehicles that are coming in. And as a result, it's like if your veins are clogged and your arteries are blocked, you know you're going to die. I don't want us to kill St. George's. I want us to be able to have the traffic flowing. Traffic in a city is like the bloodstream. You ever see it in the night? You always see it on TV and so on, how the vehicles going on, the lights and whatever. It's like the bloodstream. Take it to the heart of the matter and whatever. We want to be able to have proper parking facilities, proper causeways to go to the different places of work. I live at Guelph, and it takes me about half an hour to reach the stadium, but it takes me another half an hour to come across the Carriacou. You know we have to do something about that, either ring road, a higher pass, a lower pass. Planning has to do a lot of considerations with regards to what we advise government to do with respect to those kind of things, to stop the kind of problems that we have and allow the city to thrive. and to be able to take what is coming into it. I hope I answered that question.
Troy Gill with MTV News.
Yes, Troy.
Could you reiterate for us what would be considered to be illegal construction with regards to buildings? And also, could you tell us what is the recommended distance from the road with regards to building of houses and businesses and so forth?
Troy, I think I really explained what illegal development is. I don't know if I could be able to stretch that further. It's like you need to get planning approval for your development. The second aspect of the question I can answer. We have about 3 or 4 class of roads. Roads are classified in this country. And the top class, the major throughway that we have, we measure roads from the center line. The main road, the western main road that I travel, you need to be building there based on the law, 30 feet from the center line of the road. Measure it from the center line, 30 feet. In certain areas classified second class road, you need to be building 16 feet. And in some of the walkways and byways, you need to be doing 12 feet. But you have 16, it varies for the size of the road that you have for the accepted setback. When I was in the planning authority, we did a zonal plan for frequency area with the highway down there. If you notice, most of the development, the big ones in there, is set back to about almost 40 to 50 feet from the road. It didn't happen by chance. This was a local plan that we did within the planning authority to ensure that you have all the buildings and so, just in case you need to expand. And for the services, you have your water, you have your cable, and most of these things would be going underground. So we need to be able not all the time to just dig up the road to run something or whatever have you. So we set it back. If you look from the center line of the road to any one of them, there with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 buildings that, did not get planning permission, then you would see that it is about like 60, 80 feet from the center line of the road. But if you compare that with the rest of the St. George's area, you would realize that all the buildings are closer. But we need to do that, and most of the time, why we are not able to do a lot more in illegal development is because development in Grenada is growing very fast. We really, like getting 80 applications in 1 month into the planning office. Can you imagine how many other buildings that were built rather than those that come in? And remember, some people don't send in applications, not because they don't want to send it in, but because they don't want to pay for it. They say a plan costs $3,000, $2,500 to do a plan and whatever have you. I could put that money in my house. So they take their chances. But the point with it is that's how I see your question.
Mr. Frederick, for clarity's sake, could you, based on questions surrounding your appointment within the unit, can you explain what's your position exactly within the physical planning unit?
I think I did, but let me say this. I'm head of the unit, and my duty is to get the transition course. And the law, as I tell you, the law speaks to my appointment. The Act 23 of 2016 speaks to my appointment. Section, I believe, Part 2, Section 6. The Minister of Finance can appoint somebody to work for a period of time on the board. I work with the board. The law is clear on this thing. You pull the law, I give you all the legal aspects, pull it and see what the law says. Now, any other thing that I ought to do or whatever that needs to get me appointed in any other place or whatever have you, that's another matter.
I can also confirm that Mr. Fredericks, through the authority of the minister and backed up by the authority of cabinet, was appointed.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you very much for your presence here this morning. We had some very tough issues this morning. The coronavirus, very concerning issue for us as it is for the rest of the world, but with the approach that is being taken by the Ministry of Health in collaboration with PAHO and the World Health Organization, I think we will be in good stead, and we need to just continue observing the things that we need to do. That brings us to the end of this morning's edition of the Post-Cabinet Press Briefing. I'll see you again next week.
Just one quick announcement or statement, but two. One is that yesterday I was just informed by Ministry of Finance, and I want to thank them and congratulate them for that. All established public servants were paid with the agreed upon increases. That was done yesterday. So I want to commend them for that, and working, I'm sure, overnight over the last couple of days or so to make sure that happened. The other thing is for members of the media and members of the public as a whole, with respect to the coronavirus. Be aware of what are the facts on this, and be aware of attempts to sensationalize and also false information that is passing around. Not everything on Facebook is true. Do your homework as members of the public or members of the media, and double check. Double check everything. Check your source out and see how good it is, and rely on the WHO, Pan American Health Organization, and your Ministry of Health to be providing the relevant information.
Thank you very much, Minister. That brings us to the end. I'm Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Thank you for joining us today.
The Spring Garden water system serves two constituencies, St. Andrew Southeast and St. Andrew Southwest. This facility, constructed under NAWASA's capital development portfolio, is geared towards improving storage capacity and addressing water quality concerns. This beautiful structure before us boasts of a sedimentation tank, water tank, operators' quarters, and storage room. This is supported by a pipe distribution network from the tank to supply water to existing individuals' homes with a daily water production at 250,000 gallons. What is important to note is that this was achieved under NAWASA's Capital Investment Program. Through this program, NAWASA acceded to the call of the government of Grenada for investment in the island's water sector by investing the $12 million debt servicing by the government of Grenada to capital development projects.
Now that we have this, it's a great thing for the community and other surrounding.
I feel happy, I feel good. When I'm for Valley, because like when rain coming, the water get dirty, just cut it off. And it should be a problem for us, but now, thanks to NAWASA, we don't have that problem anymore.
Yes, it's a very nice project. We used to go and collect water in the river and pipe stands by the side of the road. But now it's different. Everybody have a little water home. It will make a good difference because it's up on the top of a hill, and then we're getting everything that we want down the road.
Internally generated funds from a new tariff reform make more of these possible.
Let us create a new portrait of this place.
Good Good morning, Grenada. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on Facebook or it's on YouTube. We appreciate having you. Remember to like the live, share the live, invite everyone to be a part of the conversation. We have just come out of a very informative post-cabinet briefing. I hope that the people who are actually supposed to be listening to that briefing took the time out to listen. Now, usually we don't follow up a post-cabinet briefing unless it's absolutely necessary. And I think this morning it definitely is one of those mornings. I continue to get disappointed sometimes in us as a people, and the information that we choose to share. And the reason I say choose to share is because it's not like the correct information isn't readily available to us. It's not like the correct information is not at our fingertips or a phone call away. But sometimes we choose to make a bad decision, and we choose to share the wrong information. Now, what I'll do is I'll open the phone lines very, very early. We're only going to take a few calls because remember, it's a short program this morning. So the number to call is 440-7377 for local calls, 347-329-3101 if you are overseas and you'd like to contribute to the conversation. So I got to work this morning, happy, in a little pain, because we start the gym yesterday. So, a little pain, but I'm still happy, enthusiastic because it's a beautiful day in Grenada and I'm happy, and I get to work this morning and somebody sends me a screenshot of an individual, or I should say a couple screenshots of individuals purposefully misleading the Grenadian people. Now, I would like to know, what is the benefit in doing something like that? So we are aware of the coronavirus. We are aware that it is becoming a very big problem in not only China, but we have places like the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and Canada also reporting cases of this virus. So the virus is now not only singular to China. It's also had its reported cases in the United States of America, in United Kingdom, and also in Canada. And I looked at this picture, or these pictures of persons telling the Grenadian public that, there was a plane, a plane of 250 Chinese coming into Grenada. Total nonsense. And we as Grenadians must do better in terms of the information that we share with other people. I mean, just looking at the post alone, you would know that it is utter nonsense. One, because we don't have large direct flights coming in from China with that amount of people. Let's start there. But further from that, we are trying to create in our people now this fear that we are now all Grenadians going to wake up tomorrow infected with a coronavirus because the government of Grenada has let all these people into our country from China who are possibly affected. We must stop this nonsense immediately. And I'm passionate about it, and I feel about it because you have people out there who do not have the means to be properly informed. And when the rumors start spreading, you create panic, you create fear, you create unwanted emotion in these individuals. So a flight containing 250 Chinese did not land on the airport this morning, as confirmed by our cabinet. A private jet carrying 8 officials from Beijing did land. That is absolutely correct. These people would have been screened. These people would have been screened before leaving Beijing. They would have been screened when arriving in Grenada, and they continue to be screened. The same can be said for any individual who would have left America, who would have left the UK, who would have left Canada. The same thing can be said. So let's not sensationalize this thing and make it seem as this is some big conspiracy or some big letdown by the government or this is some big shortfall. It has nothing to do with that. So we have our first caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Caller, good morning.
All right. So as it relates to the post-cabinet briefing this morning on the coronavirus, it's very concerning and alarming. Yes, we Grenadians like to run with a lot of things. So we would see things being posted and just automatically run with it. Now, it was confirmed by Minister Steele that 8 persons arrived on a private plane, 8 officials, whoever they are. However, it is still a threat to us. I still believe it is a threat to our country because the symptoms actually take a week to 14 days to show. So even though they are screened and they pass, they pass through. Within those 14 days, nobody has given us confirmation that these people are going to be monitored for 14 days. That is what we need to know.
Well, caller, I hope that you have been listening attentively to the post-cabinet because the minister did also mention that they will continue to be screened. They have given confirmation. They have gotten confirmation from the Chinese ambassador along with the Ministry of Health will be screening these people. And this was actually said in the post-cabinet
Listen, I watched
briefing.
I looked at the whole briefing. I looked at the whole briefing. I still think there's a lot of, let me censor this word, bullcrap going on because at the end of the day, I don't think it's safe to have any Chinese national, any Chinese for a whole coming into the island, especially now. We are small, and the thing with Grenadians, we already know that we are not well equipped as it is. So it's not about we're just running with certain things. We are afraid. We know we are a small country. We know the status of our health situation here in Grenada. So having an alarm like this would raise so many concerns. Remember, we here are working hard. We are trying to make ends meet. We have families. We have single parents. We have grandparents. We have foreign families abroad. We know the status of this. This is being so confined, and this is bigger than just Grenada, and I understand that. But as an individual and a Grenadian citizen, I have paid attention to the foreign posts and the governments in the other places. They're concealing so much information. But as Nikki said, if you do your research for yourself, then you would notice certain things. I've done my research, and I will keep researching. But what I can tell you is this thing is not normal. This thing should be a cause for very high alert. And I think we're just laid back and so easy with everything that's going on.
All right. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution.
No problem.
There are a lot of takeaways from that caller's contribution, but one thing I do want to clarify. Any country at this point that we let into, and not just Grenada, but any of our borders, it is a risk. Simply because, and we cannot just conceal this to, well, we should ban all Chinese from coming into Grenada. If that is the case, then it means that we need to ban all American citizens. It means that we need to ban all Canadian citizens. It means that we need to ban all of the citizens of the UK from coming into our country, because this virus is not singular to China. And that is what I'm trying to get people to understand. It is not singular to China. So the problem here is not that the government needs to shut its borders and keep everybody out of the island. That is not the problem. The problem is we as Grenadians need to start taking precautionary measures, because we never know which island, which country our first case may come from. It may not even be China. It may not even be the US. It may not even be the UK. It may not even be Canada. And that's what I'm trying to get everybody to understand. We do have to be concerned. This is something to be concerned about, right? There's no downplaying this virus. And I don't think that that is the intention of the minister or the intention of the Ministry of Health or the intention of our administrators, the intention of anybody really. Nobody is trying to downplay. I think what really needs to happen is that we as a people need to start taking our own precautionary measures as well. Because of course we're going to be afraid. Imagine when there was the pandemic of Ebola. Everybody was afraid. Everybody was concerned, right? Because it's a pandemic. It's something that can be easily spread. But what we're saying is take measures, and let's not make this thing, let's not add additional fear to people by putting propaganda into it, and adding political spins onto it. Everything doesn't have to be political. This is an issue that causes great concern, as it should. But as a Grenadian people, it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to take precautionary measures to ensure that we stay abreast with what is happening. As the caller is saying, she is staying abreast. She is listening to international news media and so on, and staying abreast, as we all should. But we must also remember that it is our responsibility to make responsible decisions, to not add fear to the lives of people when we are already afraid. We have to be responsible and careful in the information. So yes, and a private plane with 8 officials from Beijing came into Grenada this morning. A private jet from the UK can come into Grenada with 10 officials tomorrow, or a commercial flight, whether JetBlue or American Airlines, can come into Grenada during the week. But we would never know. There is no alarm that says this person has it or that person has it. So are we just going to shut our borders with the fear and live in fear for however long it takes to contain this virus? No, we must as a people stand together, look out for our brothers and sisters, and take the precautionary measures. The government of Grenada, along with the Ministry of Health, has already set up their screening methods and their mechanisms and so on. What are we as a people? What is your safety plan for your home, or your safety plan for your children, and your safety plan for yourself, your safety plan for your employees? What precautions are you putting in place as a person to contribute to helping with this disease not spreading, or this virus not spreading from one person to another? Because we never know where it's going to come from. It may very well not come from China, and that is what I'm trying to get us to understand. Let's not do that. Let's not point these kind of fingers, It came from China, yes, but it's no longer associated with just China. And that is what we need to understand. And as a matter of fact, it didn't just come from the whole of China. The whole of China is not affected. There are provinces in China who have not had any outbreaks, who have not even seen the virus, who are taking their precautionary measures to ensure that it doesn't spread to their people, which is what we should do here as well. But are we going to say that we are not going to accept anybody from China, anybody from the US, anybody from the UK, anybody from Canada, simply because the disease is in the virus is in that place? We have to be careful with the fear-mongering that we do sometimes. So even if the disease stemmed from China, as we have a comment on the Facebook says that, the point is that the case, it stemmed from China. But the issue is not singular to China, and that is what we must understand. Now, if the issue was singular to China, then we can say, okay, well, the Chinese have it, let's do what we have to do. But it is not. It is not singular to just China. We have people in America, people in the UK. One of your family members could very well contract unknowingly and come home. We never know, and this is what I need you to understand as a people. We have to be careful in the information that we put out there. So this morning, Grenada was in a panic because we had 250 Chinese allegedly coming into Grenada, only to find out that was not true. Would we have felt the same way if they had said that a plane of 250 people came in from the US? Or a plane of 250 people came in from the UK? You see, information is power, because we know that the virus would have stemmed from China. We feel a type of way about people coming in with cases from China. But what about the US, and what about the UK, and what about Canada, who also have people with these cases? What will you then say? So we have to be careful with the information and how we put that information out there. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller. Oh no, we seem to have lost that caller. You can go ahead and try calling again. But we have to be careful. We have to be a responsible people. So instead of trying to stigmatize this virus to China, which we well are aware that it would have stemmed there, instead of doing that, let us take the necessary precautionary measures to ensure that the people on this little rock is protected. And I cannot stress enough, China may be the source, but this is not singular to just China. This is not singular to just China. Let us be careful. Fear makes us do and say a lot of silly things. And then we turn around and regret. So let's not regret. Let's take the measures that are necessary to keep us safe. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Good morning. I've been trying for the longest while, Mr. Duncan.
I see that. Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. Mr. Duncan, a question you should ask. Even the last caller called, but what I haven't heard nobody saying. Mm-hmm. Would we allow the Grenadian students who live in that province in China to come back home at this time? Because everybody's talking about we're so scared. But if our own Grenadians have to come home, what are we going to do? Put them out in the sea?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's a very valid point.
Are we going to scream them?
That is a very valid point.
Yeah, because... And I want you to continue talking about that, because all of them who call in, whoever want to give their views, say, what about our students? What is right now is in that province. How are we going to take them home now? Would we allow them? Or are we going to just put them out on the boat and leave them outside there? You can't do that. And the same thing goes to the Chinese official that come in here. You know, when they come, we scream them. They know they're coming to the islands. They know they're going to the United States, Canada, etc. Chinese is traveling. Canada have about 3 or 4 cases right now. The husband come back and the wife end up getting it. Mm. You know? But because it take a few days. Mm-hmm. So we have to scream them, but we can't ban them from the country. We can't ban no one. Because the whole world right now is troubled by that, but we still plane have to fly. People still have to move around. So we have to use some common sense. Yeah. We can't leave our Grenadian students in China and say we don't want them back because they go kill us. We can't say that. So let we be smart. You know? Try and protect whatever we have to protect, but we have to think smarter than that. Have a good day, Sister Duncan.
You too. Thank you so much for your contribution, caller. I think in all of this, emotions are really high as it relates to, because we've been reading from the international media the effects of this virus and what it has done. And I think emotions are very high as it relates to what decisions we make and what story we lend our voices to as it relates to this issue. What I will say is that just after the emotions have died down, let's be sensible. Let's protect ourselves as individuals. Let us use all of the precautionary measures that have been given internationally. Washing your hands, sanitizing your hands, covering your face, ensuring that surfaces are clean when preparing food, and ensuring that if you cough, either you cough into your arm or you cough into a towel or a disposable cloth or whatever precautionary measures you have to take as an individual. Let's do that. And let's not run around just assuming that we need to either ban this person or ban that person or ban this country or ban that country. And let us think about self and what we need to do to protect ourselves. Because I will tell you this, and I am absolutely certain in saying this. We never know. We pray that the virus doesn't reach our borders, but we never know where it may come from. And that is the takeaway from this entire conversation. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Duncan, how are everything?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay, for the time being. Yeah, Miss Duncan. Sometimes something stems from a country, but I do believe you cannot stop people from coming to your country. So while a virus out, while what we have to do, put things in place. So when people came from different countries, we have things in place to properly screen them to make sure that they are safe. Right? That is important.
Yeah.
Because we cannot stop people from coming to our borders. Yes, it's still from China, but then how long will it take from China to America? It's the virus. Right? Because people travel different places. So all what we have to do, put it in place, and let us know what we have to do. That's what is important. Yeah, if yes, you stop people from China. What about America? What about other countries?
Yeah.
Right? We don't know. Right? So we want to check about yes, it's 10, but then it could go in America, different countries. So then all what we have to, as a country, Grenada, we have to put things in place that when people come, we will properly screen them to make sure that the people in our country are safe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You as well.
Okay.
But let us also look at this school of thought. So you have a family member, a friend, or so on in the UK, right? They would not have traveled to China. They would have come in contact with hundreds of thousands of people during their stay in the UK. And they come back home. They didn't travel to China. They didn't contract the virus in China. So you understand what I'm trying to say. We never know. Our responsibility at this point is to not point fingers as to who is not doing this and we must do that, because we as Grenadians tend to always become experts on an issue. Whenever emotions are high, we have a lot of experts. Everybody know what we should do. But what are you as an individual doing to protect yourself? What plan do you have in place to protect yourself? We have to be careful. And that's just the reality of the situation. There's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to put a spin on it. There's no way to make it sound pretty. What matters is the fact that we have to take precautions. Because this is not just an issue in China. This is a worldwide issue. One case in a country is too much. So you may say the US only has maybe 5 cases, or that Canada maybe have approximately 2 cases, or the UK may only have 17 cases. One case is too much. So while China may have 200 cases and America may only have 5, it doesn't make a difference. we have to be mindful of what kind of fear we are putting into our people. It's not fair to do that to a person who has no other means of getting information than to listen to the local radio, and then you go on the local radio and you hear somebody saying that Grenada let 250 Chinese come into Grenada, so now everybody gonna get a virus. And why would you want to do something like that to a person? You know, you have an elderly woman sitting in her chair now listening to the news and all afraid and fear. She pressure gone high because somebody would have put propaganda in front of the well-being of Grenadians. And that is sad. That is what is disappointing. That is what we need to address and we need to be concerned about. It is the information. Because remember, I always say information has power. But not all information that reaches the ears of an individual is good information or maybe good for them. So we have to be careful of what information we put out there. Because somebody may not die of the coronavirus, but they may die from fear of getting the virus. You understand? So we have to be careful. We have to take all of these things into consideration and not just let our emotions lead our decisions, and not just let our emotions drive our voices and what we say. We have to sit and start making critical decisions of what we're going to say, how we're going to say it, who it's going to affect, and how it will affect them. We have to keep these things in the back of our mind. I mean, it's a very sad thing that you have to wake up on a beautiful day like today and have to hear this kind of propaganda, which has probably spread throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, have people emotionally uneasy, have people's pressure high. It's not a good thing. So while we do need to be concerned, while we do need to take personal and, of course, state precautions, we have to be careful of the information that we put out there, whether it is for our own personal gain, whether it is for political mileage, whether you just enjoy seeing Grenadians scamper and get emotional about whatever information you put out there. Whatever the reason is, it's not good. It's not good for our people. It's not good for our image. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, and happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Okay, you're so very right. You're so very right. You know, I know for sure we are bright people, but are we diplomatic? No. You see, in many of these situations, you can't want to damage a group, the citizens for a group.
Yeah.
And in some cases, we have to be very diplomatic. You know, they say diplomats sometimes they stutter. You discover that?
Yeah.
These diplomats don't stutter. They use their brain, they juggle their brain in the spur of the moment to come out to the right word. But we think they're stuttering. That is all how diplomacy works. And so our people is not good at that.
Yeah.
So we'll just put things out there. We don't care the consequences. I heard a few weeks, I got the news long before a lot of people because I listen to late night news on the BBC and throughout the day. And I am hearing in the news that there is H1N1 in Trinidad and Tobago more than 3 weeks ago. And a few people died coming out. And I heard one of the public health officials said certain things. And but I didn't hear anybody respond to that. And H1N1 is also serious.
Yeah.
We don't say anything about that. So we deliberately do a lot of things, and I'm not talking politics here, no governmental thing. I'm talking issues that we should be very concerned about, and we have to be very careful what we propagate outside there. Now, I listened to Mr. Gilchrist this morning on your program there, and some people perhaps wanted to hear him say that he's going to deal with the people who constructing illegally, and he's going to bring the law very heavily down on them, and eventually he's going to give them serious fines. And I want to compliment him for the way he handled this question, because I had been in contact with the constant dialogue with physical planning unit for a lot of years, and with a lot of ideas that they are going to implement now. Yes, there used to be illegal buildings, and they dealt with it in what you call a diplomatic way, because had they gone out and said, look, people are constructing illegally that they know, that they would have bring down the force of the law on them, government would not boast of the amount of homes that we have today that is bringing in so much revenue. So they handled it right under the circumstances where the economy was weak. Now they're getting into the authority. They equally have to handle it diplomatically. Whilst they have to bring the law down, you have to be very diplomatic, because if you handle things in the way that some people want us to handle it, you're going to shut the country down.
Yeah.
And I want to compliment him for the way he handled himself there. He is very diplomatic, and he answered the questions very diplomatically. I want to compliment him for that. Right?
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much for your contribution, caller. He is right. We really don't know how to be very diplomatic in handling things as a population. We get something, we feel a type of way about it, and we just express ourselves. We are an expressive people, and that's okay. Freedom of speech and expression is welcomed in a democratic society. However, we must understand that with freedom of speech, with freedom of expression, comes responsibility. You are responsible for the information that you put out there, because you are responsible for ensuring that it is correct, for ensuring that it is factual, for ensuring that it does not cause any damage or harm or emotional turmoil to another individual. Like every other choice that you make in life, it comes with responsibilities. So let us be careful and let us be mindful that we are a democratic society. We are free to speak. We are free to express ourselves. We are free to give our opinions on a lot of matters, if not all. But in most cases, we are never willing to accept responsibility for the reactions, responsibility for what the information that you put out there, whatever damage it caused. We don't ever want to take responsibility. We like to give and give and give, and we're never willing to take. We complain, we complain, we complain. We're never willing to commend. We have to, for this 2020, start looking at ourselves, because it starts with each and every individual person. It starts with us. It's not our administration's fault. It's not any government's fault. It's us. We have to look at ourselves. We have to begin pointing fingers at ourselves, taking responsibility for our own actions. And be mindful of the things that we do. So like I said, we do have cause for concern. But sometimes, just sometimes, the decision you make while feeling emotional about a situation is not always the best decision. And if you don't believe me, ask a woman who leaves she husband because she vex if she ain't regret it when she cool down. You know? Or ask two friends who have had a heated argument in the midst of emotions if they don't feel bad about it after. Or ask an angry mother who has just given her child a good whooping if afterwards it doesn't break her heart. Just saying. We got to be mindful. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
I've got a WhatsApp message that to call you. Kevin Frederick here.
Oh, and Kevin, you're live actually.
Okay, cool.
Let me just take a short break and speak to you off air first.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, guys, we're going to take a very short break while I take this call, and then we'll, of course, be back with more information for you.
With you the legislation pertaining to this practice of poor waste management as we aim towards combating the scourge of illegal dump sites at abandoned and secluded areas, over cliffs, rivers, as well as on private and public properties. In accordance to the Waste Management Act of 2001, Section 32, subsection 1, which states, and I quote, "A person who generates waste may only discard it in 1. An appropriate receptacle, 2. by delivering it to the holder of a permit for the transportation of waste, or 3. by taking it to a facility licensed to receive waste. Failure to dispose waste in this manner is considered illegal dumping, and a person found guilty is liable to a fine of $20,000 and 3 months imprisonment."
All right, guys, and we are back. And of course, because the conversation has come up, and there are a lot of people in their feelings and in their emotions and scared and, concerned, it's absolutely necessary that we have the professionals. I could sit here and run my mouth all day, but of course the professionals have all of the information that is needed to kind of quell some of the concerns that we have. So on the line with me this morning, and of course we're going to further this conversation tomorrow as well, I have Mr. Kevin Frederick from the Ministry of Health. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
All right, wonderful. So we have had quite a bit of concern, especially this morning, with some of the information reaching the doors of our people. Not in the best of ways, but of course it does open door for conversation. So I'm assuming that you're calling to make some clarifications and to give some general information.
Very much, very much.
Absolutely. We are hearing you a bit far. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm hearing you at a distance. So I don't know if you can either speak further into the phone or increase your volume.
Okay, are you hearing me better now?
Yes, it actually is a little bit better.
All right, good. Okay, so first off the bat, yes, my name is Kevin Frederick. I'm the Communications and Public Relations Officer from the Ministry of Health. Let me say that, we understand the concerns of the callers out there, and we are going to continue to share information as much as possible. We will only share information, that is credible, and, we are appealing to all and sundry out there that whatever information you need, you should take it directly from the Ministry of Health, and not from other sources that are not credible. You could also take information, of course, from PAHO. You could take information from CAFA. You could take information from WHO. Even flu.gov. These are the proven and tested sources for information, and that's who we also deal with. Now, I don't know where you would like for me to start, but I will end on the latest development. So what I'll do, I'll go further and tell you what has been done thus far.
Okay.
So we have met as a ministry. Our task force has met. Our task force, of course, is broader. So, and we follow, which is called something called the Crisis and Emergency Risk Communication Strategy. Now, people may not be aware, or they may not recall that in 2018, the Ministry of Health invited the WHO team to visit Grenada so that we can review our IHR protocols, which means International Health Regulations. Now, Grenada, to date, is the only country in the region that has undertaken such a review of its protocol. Now, PAHO has published that online, and the world has recognized that. Grenada has been commended for taking such a bold step. We did that because we wanted to identify gaps in our system. It was not designed to water down, or hide anything.
Right.
And to date, we are satisfied that what we are doing and have done is to the best of our abilities, given the resources at our disposal.
Right.
Now, we have been commended, and we are encouraged to be leaders. And that's the reason why, we can boldly say that we are not in any way trying to cover up anything.
Right.
We are not in any way attempting to mislead people. What we're doing are pure public health recommendations coming out from some of the most international and reputable organizations. So that is out there, and people could verify what we say.
Right.
However, we went a step further. Now, our task force team last week met with people like police. Mr. Jesmond Prince, who is one of the deputy commissioners, he was present. We had the immigration officer, who was present. We had, two persons from immigration, that is. We had tourism, Miss Ria Murray. She represented likewise the tourism authority.
Right.
We had broad, customs, airports, everybody was at that meeting that took place last week Friday at the Ministry of Works conference room.
Right.
We updated people and told them what the situation is, what we are doing, and so forth. Now, following that meeting, Minister Steele led some of our officers to the airport. We did an assessment again, and mind you, we do regular assessments. Yeah, so we did another assessment. We looked at what was happening. We went back down. So we had seen on Thursday what happens when the smaller flights arrive.
Right.
On Friday, they had major flights. We were down there. Now, there was a flight that came in around 3 o'clock, somewhere thereabouts. I think it was either from Canada or somewhere. But the long and short of it is that we were able to see what happened in real life. So no one couldn't tell us, well, this and that, and then we had to second guess whether or not it is true. So we've been down there, and as a result of that, we decided to reset up, reposition, re-angle, however you want to call it, our fever sensing scanner. We have an infrared, high-definition fever sensing scanner that was installed at the airport a couple of years ago when we had the Chickpea and Zika outbreaks. So that was somewhere in around 2016, 2017, thereabouts.
Right.
We keep testing it. And so we now have it repositioned. Now it's working fine up until just a short while ago. And I was told so by the human resource manager down at the airport. On Saturday gone, myself and the airport team, we did a test and everything was functioning perfectly. Now we have handhelds, yeah? We are still trying to buy some additional handhelds. However, with respect to Carriacou, we have also engaging our public health people as well as customs, police and immigration at Carriacou. So a lot of things are going to happen both on the mainland and the sister isle. Now, in addition to that, yes, people must understand that there is no need for panic because according to CARFA, WHO, PAHO, our region is at low risk. Our stance at this time, our response level is guarded, which is a code. It is now at code blue.
Right.
Yes. Now we have this response tool that we utilize whenever there's a public health emergency. It's shaped like an iceberg, and we start from the bottom go up because you will elevate based on need. So we are at code blue, right? So the public must have confidence in our system because we have been meeting. We have had closed-door meetings, and closed-door because you must be given a link. It's an online link. No Tom, Dick, Harry cannot just get into that mix.
Right.
As a matter of fact, just a while ago, I concluded a meeting with CARFA, which is the Caribbean Public Health Agency. So the region is telling you what's going on. And the exact same thing that is happening in Grenada, I can tell you, is happening in Guyana, it is happening in Dominica, Trinidad, Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent. Every CARFA member state, they have taken and continue to take the same measures that Grenada is taking. So we have nothing completely different here at all whatsoever. Now, in addition to that, yes, let me say so. Dr. Charles earlier went and ensured that we have our PPEs, which is personal protective equipment. We have that in stock. Our N95 masks, we have that in stock. We have hundreds of it. We have hand sanitizer and so on and so forth. Now, as I was explaining earlier today, down at the airport, what will happen when we give the advice is that persons will see the immigration officer take their passport, and before he hands it back, he will go through everything, verify the information, then pass it on to you. Now, you will be asked certain questions on forms. If you mislead the officer, he would know. So, for example, if you came from China, right, and you said, no, I just came out in Germany, and when he scans your passport, he see that you came in directly from China, or you were in China for a period of time, and you did not declare that on your form, he would see that there's inconsistencies in your information.
Right.
So we are advising people in Grenadian terms, don't try that.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. Because you will be caught.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are penalties for false declarations, especially under the Public Health Act. So persons should be mindful of that. We have those systems in place. Now, in addition to that, after the officer was to return your passport to you, he will use some hand sanitizer and sanitize his glove, because we don't want, just in case you had something, okay, and we missed it, he pass it on to the other person's passport, and because some virus will remain on surfaces and so forth for hours. So after handling every single passport, the officer will use hand sanitizer.
Right.
Now, in addition to that, likewise, yeah, we have our nurses who will then be checking. So once the alarm system goes off on the back end, the passengers will not know that. So I'll tell the public. The fever sensing scanner is programmed based on recommendation. So if we are looking for a fever, say for example, over 35 or 37 degrees Celsius, we check that. If it goes beyond that, we know that it's cause for concern, because the infrared scanner and fever sensing equipment, what will happen is that it is going to beep. It will keep alarming,
right,
alerting our public health officials that someone out there has an elevated fever. Check them. We will pull you aside and do what we have to do.
Right.
Now, last week we announced that we have identified certain facilities and so forth as quarantine zones or quarantine facilities.
Right.
Tomorrow there's a lot. Dr. Martin and I will share more information on that. I could tell you right now, but just for persons to rest assured that we do have 2 isolation facilities. One will be stationed at the airport, and the other will be away from the airport.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Now, a couple of the logistics will be ironed out, so I don't want to actually delve too much in that. But by tomorrow, that information will be made public.
Absolutely.
Now, in addition to that, persons would have heard of a plane coming in with people. What I can tell you is that, yes, that happened this morning, and my information, is that they were checked and they were all given the green light to land. Now, landing here meaning that they were checked on board the vessel, and planes are also referred to as vessels, right? So they were checked there. No one had any elevated fever or signs of that, and so because of the fact that there has not been any declaration of a public health emergency warranting countries to take X and Y measures, for example, shutting its borders, as you were alluding to earlier, we cannot, because if we do that, we would be in breach of certain international conventions.
Of course.
So we cannot prevent someone from landing unless there are certain declarations made. Now, everything coincides. Hello?
Hi, hello?
Yeah, sorry. Everything coincides, with regulations, international health regulations, the IHR. And we meet daily online with our partners, our strategic stakeholders, SAFA, PAHO, WHO, everyone in the mix. So hence the reason why we are doing what we are doing, how we are doing it, and why we are doing it that way.
Yeah.
So persons, we understand that there will be some level of hysteria. We understand that there will be levels of concern. But I could tell you, from where I sit in information, I know that what we are doing is to the best, not just of our abilities, but we are working according to international and regional guidelines and protocols. Now, there are people who are, and persons, Ms. Duncan, persons must understand that, yes? We have all had training in different areas, and as professionals, we must respect each other and allow each other to do what they were trained to do. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a nurse.
Right.
But I was professionally trained in journalism because I was attached to Grenada Today newspaper for about 10 years. Coming out of that, I'm into health education. I have done all of my training. I have been representing Grenada on the Regional Health Communications Network for over 5 years. As a matter of fact, it is about 11 years now. And we met up to today. So we have various trainings. We understand. Luckily for Grenada, I was one of 2 persons selected from the Caribbean to represent the entire Caribbean in the U.S. on a study tour, which took me all the way to the CDC. So when I tell you that we have a public health emergency, response tool that we utilizes, rest assured that we do. So we're not just talking because we want to make you feel safe. We are talking because we have facts to back up what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And we were all trained to respond in a systematic manner. This is why we are doing that. So there is absolutely no need for panic at this time. If our response needs changing, we will change it because we have a responsibility to keep our citizens and our borders safe. So if there is a case in the region, we will elevate from blue, which is guarded, to yellow, which is elevated. If it moves from elevated to orange, which is high, we will let the public know that we are at orange. That code represents being high. If it moves from high to severe, when we have outbreak on the island, then we are going to let you know that we have an outbreak. It is severe, and that tool was developed based on countries' capacities to handle. So people have to understand that we don't just do things for style and for the sake of doing it or for political reasons. We do it because we have a responsibility to our citizens.
Absolutely. Well, Kavil, I know that you guys are going to be here tomorrow, and of course, we welcome you. But of course, we are out of time. So thank you so much for calling and lending your voice to this very concerning issue. Of course, we will have more conversation on this tomorrow. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right.
Have a good one, likewise.
You too.
Okay,
So, guys, you heard it from the professionals. And of course, they will be here tomorrow for further conversations. And of course, you get an opportunity to ask those burning questions that you have in a respectful, let me just state that first, in a respectful manner. Go ahead and ask your questions, those burning questions that you do have, in the hopes of getting some clarity on the situation. But remember, we must never let our emotions lead our decisions and end up disappointed or regretful of the comments that we have made or how we have lent our voice, to whatever the situation may be. So be mindful of that, guys. We are definitely out of time, but we will continue the conversation tomorrow with our health officials here to give further clarity on some of the misconceptions and, of course, some of your very valid concerns. It's always a pleasure speaking with you in whatever you say and whatever you do. Be safe, be secure. We always want to be talking with you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Government continues to monitor well-being of students in China in wake of coronavirus outbreak. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Monday, January 27th, 2020, I am Sherry Ann Noel. The government of Grenada is continuing to closely monitor the well-being of the 11 Grenadian students currently in China, particularly those studying in the city of Wuhan. As of January 27, 2020, no Grenadian student is known to have contracted the virus. A memo from Grenada's ambassador to the People's Republic of China, Dr. Abby David, gave assurances that the embassy has been in frequent contact with the students and will continue to follow up with them to ensure that they are well supported. At the time of this brief, the ambassador said the students are safe and observing the lockdown protocol put in place by the Chinese government, following the shutdown of Wuhan and other affected cities to help curb the potential spread of the virus. It was acknowledged that persons could be left with reduced supplies. Dr. David reassured that the Grenada Embassy will help to facilitate requests for supplies, if or when students require such. Dr. David was among foreign diplomatic envoys in China who met with officials of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Monday for an update on the outbreak, which has to date affected 2,744 persons, causing 80 deaths. The Chinese government also assured that it is taking firm measures to detect the threat to the virus, including increasing medical staff and developing clinics to treat infected persons. Acknowledging the gravity of the situation, the government of China assured that it will do everything to help foreign nationals, including the provision of needed supplies and a 24-hour hotline to connect with the government in order to make requests for supplies. An emergency hotline has also been established for reporting any concerns. The Chinese government is also discouraging the evacuation of foreign nationals at this time, so as to help isolate and potentially curb the spread of the virus. The government of Grenada will continue to monitor the situation and provide necessary updates to the nation, especially concerned family members. Moving along, the Office of the Ombudsman will be expanded and upgraded to function as a national human rights institution for Grenada. The announcement by Foreign Affairs Minister Honorable Peter David. He was speaking as Grenada came up for the third review of its human rights record by the UN Human Rights Council's Universal Periodic Review UPR Working Group in Geneva. Minister David says the decision falls in line with efforts to establish a national human rights institution consistent with the Paris Principles.
This decision was taken after 3 national stakeholder consultations facilitated by the Commonwealth Secretariat in Grenada in 2016, 2018 and 2019. My delegation looks forward to continued engagement with the Commonwealth Secretariat, OHCHR and other development partners to make this a reality.
The Grenada delegation was commended by the representatives from Seychelles for the move to establish the institution, as well as to enact legislation to improve human rights.
And positively noting consultations held towards the establishment of a national human rights institution, Seychelles recommends that Grenada ensure the timely establishment of a national human rights institution that is in line with the Paris Principles. Seychelles commends Grenada for their efforts to improve the constitutional and legislative frameworks to protect and promote human rights, and in this view positively notes the enactment of the Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act, the Juvenile Justice Act, and the Electronic Crimes Act.
Grenada is one of the 14 states to be reviewed by the UPR Working Group during the session, which ends on January 31st. Grenada's first and second UPR review took place in May 2010 and January 2015, respectively. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Grenada, it's time to celebrate our 46th anniversary as an independent nation as we prepare for the future through empowerment, growth, and long-term sustainable development. Let's show our true patriotism by participating in the following events. The 46th Anniversary Cultural Extravaganza in St. Andrew on Saturday, February 1st. The National Cleanup Drive from February 1st to 6th. And wait, that's not all. The National Colors Day and Inter-Ministries Competition on February 6th. Then, on February 7th, we head to the Made in Grenada Expo and Military Parade at the Carriacou James Athletic Stadium. Happy 46th, Grenada!
Welcome back. The Ministry of Health is laying the foundation for a more reliable, efficient health sector through the emergency medical or ambulance services. First responders are participating in 3 days of training that will equip them with the knowledge and skills to perform medical services en route to the hospital. The emergency medical services will see responders dispersed at strategic locations at clinics. Director of Emergency Medical Services, Dr. Daniel St. Louis, says the training is the groundwork for the establishment of a better functioning ambulance service.
An ambulance service, but an ambulance service that is dependable, that is timely, so that we can, as earlier said, help to avert pain and suffering and try our best to save lives. The general plan is that when EMS gets started sometime in the future, that we're going to have our ambulances and our EMTs, emergency medical technicians, the folks who are going to be working on these ambulances, distributed around the island in strategic locations to ensure a couple of things. One, that response time is as short as possible when somebody needs help, and 2, that you get treatment started as soon as possible. Definitive treatment would be at the destination hospitals, Princess Alice, St. George's, Princess Royal, but en route, our individuals, our EMTs would be able to, they would be trained to have the capacity to be able to at least start the treatment so that these patients don't have to wait so long before something is done for them to alleviate the pain, to alleviate their suffering.
Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele describes the training as timely as the ministry continues to explore and implement measures to improve the health sector. As the health ambassadors who will have the first contact with patients, he encouraged the participants to be serious about the rules.
They will be seeing you as the face of our health services out there, i.e. they will be seeing you when you drive by in an emergency vehicle. And how you do that will dictate the impression they have of the level of professionalism we have here. So you are not just emergency responders,
but you are ambassadors of the health system.
Training facilitator Dr. Shannon Langston says the training will be done in accordance with U.S. and national standards.
In addition, we'll be working to develop 434, the emergency dispatch system, communication systems, training instructors so that it's ongoing training rather than relying on outside help. Developing ongoing education, assisting with protocols, and developing medical oversight under Dr. St. Louis. With this EMT training will also come new career opportunities as well as improved medical care to the public. EMTs will be trained to U.S. and national standards, and we will assist Grenada in developing their own national standards for EMS work, as well as ensuring that there's a minimum standard met before people are working in the pre-hospital environment, that ambulances are equipped appropriately for the care delivered.
The Emergency Medical Services hotline is 434. Moving along, Saturday was a busy day for the National Celebrations Committee, which successfully pulled off two of the major events that form part of Grenada's 46th Independence Anniversary celebrations. The day began with a motorcade from Burns Point, St. George's, moving along the Carriacou onto Scott Street to Church Street, Melville Street, making its way through River Road onto the Eastern Main Road with stops at various locations. During a stop at the Latan Junction, Parliamentary Representative Honorable Oliver Joseph spoke of the significance of the area in Grenada's road to independence.
We are happy to see the turnout here. Where we are in Latan Junction, there is a monument right behind me that marks the beginning of the struggle for independence. So St. David's, he rich in history with the struggle by Sir Eric Matthew Gary to gain independence from Grenada. And today, as we celebrate our 46th anniversary, with all the colors and all the people coming out, I'm extremely pleased to see all the turnout and the discipline and the lovely colors, and just to encourage every one of us to continue to enjoy all the activities on the 7th of February, which is our big day at the National Stadium. I want to invite all of you to come out and show your appreciation, come out and show your patriotism for Grenada as we are becoming a very mature nation. Soon we'll be swiftly as a nation. We have come a long way, we still have a long way to go.
The motorcade then proceeded to Grenville with a stop at Pearls before heading through St. Patrick and down the Western Main Road, terminating at Burns Point. Later on Saturday, the attention turned to the Surtees bus terminal, where defending Independence Calypso monarch Sean Niles, Sour Serpent, successfully defended his title. He performed in position number 6 with his selection, The Bodyguard.
When they say me country poor, I say but me crime rate low. Cost of living high, much things we ain't had to buy. They say up to now we can find oil. I tell them we have the richest style. They say CBI gone through, we still have Sanders and SGU. Something tell me fight, for me nation fight. I say I go fight, something they say is right. So I put on me back a jacket, listing nice green and gold. I am ready to defend my country, and I know I am afraid of soul.
I just thought that we have a lot of things to be joyful and happy about, in the nation, rather than look at the negatives. Every country has its own downsides. So it was an opportunity for me to take what happened in the last year. Anderson Peters, and Mr. Killer and so on, to use as impetus, to use as a catalyst to come up with a positive song.
What's your views on the level of calypsos that came in the 2020 competition? You would have sung in the first half, so you had the whole second half to actually hear what your other competitors were coming with.
I think the calypso in the Defense Commission reflects the right perception of calypso across Grenada for Carnival and so on. Work has to be done. Even me, I will have to do all the work, but I think composition aspect of the calypso is lacking quite a bit. Right, but tonight was pretty good. I think it was better than last year.
Placing second was Samantha Dixon Royalty, who performed in position number 2 with the selection The Patriot, and Keturah George third with I Can't Stop Loving You. Here now are highlights of Keturah and Samantha's performance.
I remember the days when we used to cook one calado, roast breadfruits and oil long on the block. Now children playing hopscotch and marble. know we had struggled. So I say, bring back the love that we had. To our home, so our children who we are. So I said, I can't stop loving Grenada. Although some want to spoil my country, want to tarnish my beauty, I can't stop loving Grenada. Although some army crime rate rising, banditry inflating, I moan and I groan every time a little youth get killed. But Grenada, I love you still.
Former Independence Mona Kelly Klein placed 4th. And with that, we come to the end of the National Report for Monday, January 27th, 2020. I am Sherry Ann Noel, thanking you for viewing.